Tonight at 10, 5 people are killed and 13 injured in a fire triggered by an explosion of 2 fireworks containers. The Prime Minister orders an investigation. His Majesty the King is updated on the Civil Defense and Gendarmerie Security Agencies training programs to raise their performance. And the Syrian president meets Oman's foreign minister as Russia stages more airstrikes against militants. Good evening and welcome to the 10 o'clock news. Civil defense crews brought under control a huge fire at the Customs Department's premises in the southern Amman, where a truck carrying 2 containers loaded with fireworks exploded. The blast and fire left 5 people dead and 13 others injured. Dozens of vehicles parked at the site also caught fire. The accident occurred as authorities were handling the banned cargo for re-export to Nigeria. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour inspected the site of the blaze and ordered that a committee be formed to investigate the cause of the blaze. Interior Minister Salam Hamad confirmed the fire had been put out. He said 5 people were killed and 13 injured who were transferred to the Al-Bashir government hospital. Hamad said the casualties included a number of Egyptian workers. Customs Department Director General Munder Al-Assaf said the cargo fireworks were being unloaded by the trader who had bought it after authorities confiscated it and sold it in an auction. Asked how the container caught fire, Assaf said it could be by tampering by one of the workers unloading the container contraband, stressing that the storage site was far from any source that could cause a fire. His Majesty the King, the Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, called on the Civil Defense Department headquarters where he was reassured on its operational and training programs. The King was briefed by the Civil Defense Department Director, Lieutenant General Talal Kofahi, on the department's developmental plans and operations, particularly during the winter. Kofahi spoke about procedures undertaken by the Civil Defense Department to raise the level of its performance to ensure security and humanitarian services for both the people and visitors of Jordan. King Abdullah viewed up-to-date machinery and equipment used by specialized civil defense teams, including fire, rescue, emergency and medical equipment that were designed in cooperation with leading national companies. Also today, King Abdullah met the Gendarmerie Department Director General Brigadier General Hussein Hawatmeh to discuss a number of issues of concern to the security apparatus. His Majesty was updated by the Gendarmerie Chief on his department's achievements, training programs and future plans. The King voiced his pride in his efforts of the Gendarmerie personnel to protect the country's achievements. Hawatmeh said his security agency will forge ahead with upgrading its performance to carry out its security and humanitarian tasks in coordination with other security bodies. Prime Minister Abdullah Mansour chaired a meeting of agencies concerned with the Urban Developmental Zone project. The meeting tackled achievements at the economic developmental area and hindrances to progress of work. Mansour told the meeting that the project, which was ordered by His Majesty the King in 2007, is vital as it will attract investments and will help the development in the northern region. He urged that efforts be stepped up to accomplish the major project that will be an added value to the national economy. Officials also discussed a proposed partnership between the North Development Company and the Jordan University of Science and Technology to fulfill the goals of the zone. Jordan strongly condemned a deadly terrorist attack that targeted a mosque in the southern Saudi city of Najran. In today's attack, a terrorist blew himself up inside the mosque during the early evening Maghrib prayer, killing 3 worshippers and wounding at least 11 others. Minister of State for Media Affairs Mohammed al-Momeni stressed Jordan's solidarity with the Saudi government against terrorism and blind violence which targets the security, safety and stability of the Saudi kingdom. The minister offered his condolences to the Saudi government and wished the injured a speedy recovery. Israeli police and special forces escorted dozens of Jewish settlers and extremists who stormed the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in the latest provocation at the sacred Jerusalem site. Al-Aqsa Foundation of Waqf and Heritage said the extremists toured the compound and performed prayers under heavy police protection. Such visits to Al-Aqsa or Haram al-Sharif compound, seen by Palestinians as incitement, have triggered deadly violence across the occupied territories and in Israel in the past weeks. Here's an update.
No end in sight to the weeks-old round of spiraling Israeli-Palestinian violence. Israeli soldiers fired tear gas and stun grenades at protesters in the West Bank city of Ramallah near the settlement of Beit El. The protesters set tires ablaze and hurled stones at troops during clashes that erupted today. A Palestinian was shot and killed by troops who claimed he had tried to stab a soldier at an intersection near the city of Hebron. The ongoing violence, which in recent weeks had become more sporadic, has in part been triggered by Palestinian anger over Jewish encroachment on Al-Aqsa compound. At least 54 Palestinians, half of whom Israel says were assailants, have been shot dead by Israelis at the scene of attacks or during protests in the West Bank and Gaza since the beginning of the month. Violent clashes also erupted between Palestinians and the occupation forces near Hebron's Haram al-Ibrahimi Mosque. The municipality of Hebron said in a statement, Israeli soldiers fired toxic gas during the clashes near a barrier at the entrance to the city, leaving dozens of Palestinian youths and students suffocated from inhaling toxic gas. Local Palestinians in Hebron said around 20 female Palestinian students were suffocated and fainted after the occupation forces fired tear gas near a primary school in the city and were transferred to a nearby hospital. Hiba Latoum for the News at 10.
Syrian President Bashar al-Assad discussed the Syrian crisis with the Foreign Minister of Oman. The official Syrian news agency Sana said Assad and the Omani Foreign Minister Yusuf bin Alawi discussed regional and international ideas that have been put forward to discuss the Syrian war. It said Alawi stressed the importance of the unity and stability of Syria and said his country is continuing to make all efforts possible to help find a solution to the crisis in the country. Assad's main ally, Russia, said earlier that Syria needed to prepare for parliamentary and presidential elections. The meeting took place as Russia continued air raids in Syria. The Russian Defense Ministry said its planes had flown 164 sorties and struck 285 Daesh and Jabhat al-Nusra militant targets in Syria in the last 3 days. In the last 24 hours, Russian planes flew 59 sorties, hitting 94 targets in the Hama, Idlib, Latakia, Damascus, Aleppo and Deir ez-Zor provinces. Russia says it has destroyed more than 800 militant targets since it began its campaign of airstrikes on September 30. The Defense Ministry said Air Force jets destroyed 2 metal hangars housing a major al-Nusra ammunition store in the eastern suburbs of the Syrian capital Damascus. Additionally, 2 fighter jets hit a vehicle workshop in the northern Aleppo province where Daesh militants were equipping cars with mortars and anti-aircraft cannons. A suicide bomber killed 7 people, including 2 police, in an attack on a Shiite procession in the northern Baghdad neighborhood. Police said the explosion, which wounded 23 others, was one of few attacks reported in Iraq as Shiite across the Muslim world marked the holy day of Ashura. There were no immediate claim of responsibility for the attack. Meanwhile, the U.S. military said the American-led coalition conducted 15 airstrikes against Daesh in Iraq. The airstrikes, including 5 near Ramadi, that hit Daesh fighters, weapons and vehicles. Two Turkish policemen and 7 Daesh militants were killed in a firefight after police raided more than a dozen houses in Turkey's southeast. Security sources said the clashes in a district of the mainly Kurdish city of Diyarbakir were continuing. They said 4 policemen were wounded in the fighting and 3 militants were captured alive. A video shot in the neighborhood showed 2 armored police vehicles moving toward a row of houses as a gunfire echoed in the background. Turkish authorities extended operations into suspected Daesh cells after a double suicide bombing in Ankara that killed more than 100 people, which authorities blamed on the militant group. Yemeni forces loyal to President Abd Rabba Mansour Hadi made fresh gains in the southwestern city of Taiz after days of battles with Houthi rebels. Locals said the Hadi supporters made particular progress around the presidential palace. Medical sources said 13 Houthi rebels and 8 fighters loyal to Hadi were killed in the fighting in Taiz, Yemen's 3rd largest city. Several residents said Hadi loyalists had taken control of a number of mountain peaks on the southern approach of Taiz, which is also Yemen's cultural capital. Jordan offered condolences to the governments and people of Afghanistan and Pakistan, which were struck by a deadly earthquake earlier today. The quake struck the remote Afghan northeast, killing at least 135 people in Afghanistan and nearby northern Pakistan and sending shockwaves as far as New Delhi. Officials said the death toll could climb because communications were down in much of the rugged Hindu Kush mountain range where the quake was centered. Here's more.
The earthquake struck in northeastern Afghanistan but was felt in neighboring Pakistan and in India too, the dead and injured filling emergency rooms across the region. In Peshawar, Pakistan, dozens were killed and countless more injured. Tremors were felt all across northern India. They were especially intense and prolonged in India's Kashmir. And in New Delhi, residents gathered outdoors for safety.
I thought there was something wrong with my chair. Then I saw the table was also moving. When I came out, I saw everybody was rushing downstairs, so I followed them.
In Afghanistan, at least 17 people are reported killed, including 12 young girls who died during a stampede to escape their school building. Scores of people are also injured, and the death toll across the region is expected to rise. With communications down, little is known about the fate of communities in the Hindu Kush mountain range area where the quake was centered. The last time a quake of this magnitude struck the region in 2005, some 75,000 people were killed.
European leaders agreed to cooperate to manage migrants crossing the Balkans. However, they offered no quick fix to a crisis that threatens to take more lives as winter sets in. The 11 European governments issued a pledge to work together along with an action plan that includes United Nations aided accommodation for 100,000 people, half of them in Greece. The leaders also agreed that the EU border agency Frontex would step up activity on the Greek-Macedonian border to ensure people trying to cross would be registered.
I do believe that the decisions that were in consensus among those present in this meeting will give an important contribution to allow for the right bodies of the European Union to take the decisions that are needed to make sure that this situation that we always considered it was manageable will become effectively managed. First of all, to the benefit of the people in need, but also to guarantee the union and the stability of the European institutions.
Thailand held the 144th annual buffalo race in eastern Chonburi province. The festival started over a century ago as a way of giving gratitude to the buffalo for its hard work in the fields. The one-day event also gives the owners time to relax as they wait for the harvest season to arrive. The race attracted many spectators who flocked to the province, and many of the buffaloes are trained to run, not to toil in the fields. However, buffaloes are unpredictable and they tend to become frustrated easily under the hot weather. The president of the Asian Football Confederation, AFC, Sheikh Salman bin Ibrahim Al Khalifa of Bahrain, has formally entered the race to become FIFA president. Bahrain's news agency said Sheikh Salman had submitted his paperwork to FIFA headquarters yesterday, a day ahead of the deadline for candidates to deliver the nominations from 5 football associations. Sheikh Salman had initially backed Michel Platini, the UEFA president, but the Frenchman's troubles with a 2011 payment of 2 million Swiss francs from Sepp Blatter's FIFA for work done 9 years earlier have dramatically changed the electoral landscape. Andy Frankton beat a field of 40 athletes from 18 nations to be crowned Red Bull Aces wingsuit racing champion for the 2nd consecutive year. The event took the concept of snowboard cross to the skies as athletes jumped 4 at a time from a helicopter at 2,440 meters above sea level. They fly head-to-head through a twisting course of 5 gates positioned at descending altitudes between 1,980 meters and 1,065 meters. Combining speed, precision and sharpness, Red Bull Aces was developed to determine the world's best all-round wingsuit pilot in a competitive environment. And finally, cool tonight with partly cloudy skies and a chance for thundery rain showers in many regions. Winds will be westerly, moderate to brisk. As for tomorrow, a slight drop in temperatures is expected, but it will remain fair in the most regions, with still a chance for rain in the northern and central parts of the kingdom. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect mild conditions tomorrow, though with a chance for light rain. Winds will be northerly, moderate and seas calm. The weatherman warns of flash floods in low-lying areas and wet, slippery roads. Next are the lows and highs for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here are our top stories once again. 8 people are killed and 13 injured in a fire triggered by an explosion of 2 fireworks containers. The Prime Minister orders an investigation. His Majesty the King is updated on the civil defense and gendarmerie security agencies training programs to raise their performance. And the Syrian president meets Oman's foreign minister as Russia stages more airstrikes against militants. And with that, we come to the end of tonight's news. I'm Lloyd Balkar. Thank you for watching and have a good night.